Hello again, welcome back to yet another one of these. I was hunting around looking for something to record or talk about this evening because I have a weird way of doing things. I actually don't plan what I'm going to video until literally just before I'm going to do it. And Max is making noise, even though I asked him not to. And I had a look around the usual suspects. I mean, CC is still shouting at clouds and completely misunderstanding what happened on, was it June or June the 8th, when 99% of the population of the Earth saw some kind of sunlight.
What does July 8th mean to you? For most people, it's 4 days after July 4th weekend, right? Of course, that's what we all thought. That is a day that 99% of Earth, the impossible ball, that people think we live on, is lit up with some sort of sunlight.
He just misconstrued that to say 99% of the planet. That's not how it works, Chris. You really need to read things better before you start commenting on them. I think Creaky Blinder and Dave McKeegan both had a pop at that video. Taboo Conspiracy, he's done another video saying absolutely nothing. Creaky's had another go at that one. So I kind of had to, I was looking back at Level Earth Observer, and the last couple of videos he's demonstrated that he can't understand reflections, that he had a modest upbringing, which meant he wasn't, I don't want to say educated, but he was willfully ignorant of quite a large amount of stuff, and he's pleading poverty about it, or something along those lines. And he's still trying to debunk the International Space Station.
Today, a bouncing Russian is going to debunk the International Space Station.
I thought we'd gone over this, Adam. You tried, you failed, move on. Oh, well, I would like to point out something from my very last video. It was near the end, but I just thought I'd like to highlight this little point I made. The reason I wanted to go there, me personally, Max loves the big old steam engines there. They have a forecourt pendulum. And as you can see, it's actually been raised off the floor. It was on the ground, but I have a funny feeling some cheeky scamps may have got into it and upset the balance, so to speak. But this, I'm going to direct to our friend the Level Earth Observer. Now, one of its three fundamentals is that cranes and pendulums can't stay stationary on a rotating, wobbling Earth. Part of the fact that the planet isn't wobbling at any kind of discernible rate. This is what an actual pendulum is. It's an amazingly thin wire with a very precise weight that has been moved in a very specific way. When Forecourt was engineering the pendulum, he said you have to release it with absolutely no sway or wobble when you let go, otherwise it can upset the whole thing. This pendulum can in no way whatsoever be related to Adam's crane, the one he sits in and uses his mobile phone when he's not working, obviously, to record things, because he's done a couple. Where's Wally did a video where you actually saw a bit of Adam's head. Spiky hair, surly demeanour, doesn't like toys. Adam is actually Sid from Toy Story. So, in light of all the stuff that's gone before, I don't like repeating what other people have already done, especially when it's so recent. So I've gone back to my magical list. It's quite interesting to see that even though they are very dated, the points that are made in the videos are still the same things that current day flat earthers are still harping on about as if it's something new. This one harkens back to, I won't go on about the same thing, but the king of the flat earthers, I have my views about him, but Eric Dubay. It's him and Mark Sargent and all these other people who think they're like they've got the free time to put videos together that are quite lengthy and quite in depth, even though they're completely 100% wrong all the time. So the first video I did find was the 35 most common flat earth questions answered in 35 minutes. Now, I've gone over lists before, and they do tend to drag on a bit, so I'm not going to do the in-depth one, especially since I looked a little bit further into the text that accompanies these videos. I don't have a lot of this text on my videos, but these guys always do. But it's interesting how they word it. So after the obvious warning from Wikipedia that flat earthers are a load of bunkum, The Earth is flat. You can research flat Earth with the links I provided below. Eric Dubay's 200 proofs Earth is not a spinning ball. You're absolutely correct. It's not a spinning ball. We've gone over this before. It is a rotating planet. The two are not the same thing. So I clicked through. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. Eric Dubay's 200 proofs Earth is not a spinning ball. So clicking through onto the link gets you the Atlantean conspiracy, exposing the global conspiracy from Atlanta to Zion. Okay, dokie. Okay, so the webpage coming back from 2015. This is a blog post by the looks of it, because that's the blogger logo at the top there. I do have one myself. I have some short stories on there. I urge you to pop over there and have a read. I'm quite proud of them. I haven't done any in a while, but they are still there. 200 proofs Earth is not a spinning ball PDF. Let's click on this link. Sign up. You got to be joking, matey. No way. So luckily, in their hubris and arrogance, they've just published the whole thing down here anyway. Talking about horizons, how all the horizons you see are flat. They're not. Train tracks and canals. If we were living on a giant ball, airplane would constantly have to dip its nose all the time. It does, but nobody notices because it's so gradual. These flight routes do not exist. Yeah, we know. I've gone over this before. I was going to do a whole video, but it's centered around listening to David Vice's voice for much more than is healthy to anybody's psyche. So maybe one day along the line, I just need a few more months to get over him, so to speak. Going about flight paths again, etc, etc. So there's a lot to get through here. I'm not going to run through this lot because, as I say, we'd be here for bloody days. While it says 200 proofs, a lot of them are going over the same thing over and over. And what I'm going to go onto here, surveyors are train tracks and canals. It's a little bit of a woolly subject, but as someone who is in an industry where they're not necessarily connected, but I could give you some, not insider information, but educated information regarding these kinds of subjects, then I thought I'd crack on with this, so make it a much shorter video, much more palatable. So, surveyors, engineers and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their project. Canals, railways, bridges and tunnels, for example, are always cut and laid horizontally, often over hundreds of miles without any allowance for curvature. Yeah, there's a very good reason, and it's basically because even over an area of 180 miles, that is insignificant when you're talking about the surface of the planet, I do apologise. Yes, there will be curvature built into it as you're constructing it, especially something like a canal. You won't factor into it because it's literally happening as you create, as you construct.
The Suez Canal, connecting the Mediterranean with the Red Sea, is 100 miles long without any locks, making the water an uninterrupted continuation of the two seas. When constructed, the Earth's supposed curvature was not taken into account. It was dug along a horizontal datum line, 26 feet below sea level, passing through several lakes from one sea to the other, with the datum line and the water's surface running perfectly parallel over the 100 miles.
Yeah, and? Again, if you're digging a trench, you could go on forever, and you wouldn't have to take the curvature of the Earth into account. Because when you're talking about the Earth being level, it is, and water is level. If you're talking about distance from the centre of the Earth. Every spoke coming out from the centre of the Earth will be the same distance when it gets to the surface, more or less adjusting for altitude or what have you, but I'm talking about a small scale model here just to get the point across. Okay, if I could just use my slightly perplexed orange friend here as a model for the Earth. If you're digging a trench, and I'm going to use Sirius Black's wand, not his actual wand, just Sirius Black's wand as a model. So if you're digging a trench, remember this is not to scale and I haven't painted it. You're not going to be going off in a straight line just because you're digging a trench. Of course you're going to follow the Earth as it happens. Now we can pretty much negate this entire argument. There is no up in space. Water in rivers and large bodies of water do not flow downhill as if it's fallen off the planet. It can go up even though there's no up in space. Basic knowledge of anything would tell you this.
Engineer W. Winkler was published in the Earth Review regarding the Earth's supposed curvature, stating, "As an engineer of many years' standing, I saw that this absurd allowance is only permitted in school books. No engineer would dream of allowing anything of the kind. I have projected many miles of railways and many more of canals, and the allowance has not even been thought of, much less allowed for. This allowance for curvature means this, that it is 8 inches for the first mile of a canal and increasing at the ratio by the square of the distance in miles. Thus a small navigable canal for boats, say 30 miles long, will have, by the above rule, an allowance for curvature of 600 feet.
One thing I'll always do when I'm coming into looking at videos like this or articles like this is looking up the people they talk about or looking up the people they quote. Now, it's quite interesting that the person they're quoting here, W. Winkler, the only mention of this person existing at all is in Earth Review. It's actually the Earth is not flat review or Earth is round review. I do have it on my history, so bear with me. I shall record again. So according to the Flat Earth Society, they did a little bit of looking into it themselves as well. And as his comment says, this is from a few years ago, 2016, others appear to have trouble locating the elusive Mr. Winkler. A letter to the editor in the Earth Review, or the Earth Not a Globe Review, asks the same question. As an uncompromising zetetic, may I ask you to kindly state the title, etc. of the work by Mr. Winkler in which his quotation appears? For lack of this, I have found the value and convincing force of quotation seriously diminished and often disbelieved by opponents. So basically there was only one reference to somebody who claims to be somebody who used to dig canals, but that apparently is the only evidence whatsoever. But again, it's one of these things that gets brought forward year on year on year because it's the only evidence that anybody can come up with, or supposed evidence that anyone like a flat earther can come up with, to say that canals have to adjust for the curvature of the earth when being constructed, when anybody with a shovel could tell you they just don't bother, it just happens.
The London and North Western Railway forms a straight line 180 miles long between London and Liverpool. The railroad's highest point midway at Birmingham Station is only 240 feet above sea level. If the world were actually a globe, however, curving 8 inches per mile squared, the 180-mile stretch of rail would form an arc with the center point at Birmingham raised over a mile, a full 5,400 feet above London and Liverpool.
This is just so laughable a concept that it just demonstrates how inept and ignorant these people are that they've even considered this to be a gotcha at all. Now, apart from the fact they're still trying to use the debunked 8 inches per mile square, which is the formula for a parabola, not a sphere, they're also trying to ascertain that the train lines or the rail lines, the girders on the ground between London and Liverpool are one solid piece of metal going all the way there with no breaks in between. Firstly, well, there's a few things to take into consideration here. Firstly, nobody ever has made a single piece of rail 180 miles long. For one thing, how would you transport it? Most articulated lorries in this country, unless they're a special build, like for the when they put the wind turbines together, which most articulated lorry trailers are 38 feet long. How would you get a 180 mile stretch of metal onto the back of a truck to lay it down? Second point, now this is quite telling. If you've ever been on a train, you'll hear the that was a little bit Ivor the Engine there. I do apologise. If you don't know who Ivor the Engine is, you're missing out. Look it up on Google. It's adorable. But as you go over the train lines, what you're going over, that noise, is gaps in the rails. A rail track is, let me Google. Okay, jointed track is made using lengths of rail, usually around 20 metres or 66 feet long in the UK and 39 or 78, 12 or 24 metres long in North America. Bolted together using perforated steel plates known as fish plates or joint bars in North America. There's a very good reason why there are gaps in the track, and it's the same reason there are gaps in every motorway or railway bridge, is because metal expands in heat. There's always a give, a tolerance, a forgiveness of not much, just enough. Because if they were up flush, if it got really hot, as it has been recently, not just here, I mean, we're sweating in the UK and it's getting to 40 degrees. I know what you guys are out in America. Death Valley was like 54 degrees the other day. in centigrade, obviously. You guys use your Fahrenheit, you crack on, you do you. If they were solid pieces of metal, absolutely flush, if it got too hot, they would warp. They would push against each other, and it's basically, I haven't really got anything to demonstrate apart from two more wands. Have I got my other wands? No, I don't. But anyway, imagine, let's find something. My problem I have is, I've spoken about this before, my desk is black, and the majority of everything I own on this desk is black, and I never tidy, which is why you only see this. I ain't showing you this. This is an absolute state right now. But anyway, randoms, not mine, they're Max's. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, what you would have, you'd have two sections of rail pushing against each other, and then it would burp, or it would warp out that way. 66 feet or 78 feet long. That's how big they come. That's how big they're laid down. There is not a long continuous set of train tracks going from London to Liverpool that's 180 miles long. What kind of imbecile would think that that would even be a possibility? And the final point about the train tracks is they're bendy. You may not know this, but train tracks flex quite dramatically. There was a video, I'll see if I can get it, I'll see if I can find the video. There is a machine that can pick up the sleepers, which are the long concrete or wooden, it is all concrete these days, they don't use wooden ones anymore because it's creosote, it's dangerous, arsenic. It can lift up the rails, take out the old sleeper, put the new one in, put the tracks back down as it's going along. A remarkable feat of engineering. But it's amazing to see how much these train tracks flex. And if you had any concept or any knowledge of how modern engineering methods, or even going back years, I'm pretty sure the original train tracks that went across the UK and the historical ones that went across America. So this is not a new concept, and it's a glaringly obvious fact that flat earthers such as the mighty Mr. Dubay, that they don't do the tiniest amount of research into the facts they're trying to espouse to try to debunk them before making themselves look like complete tits. Okay, so I will leave it at that for the moment. Thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Nice short one today. Yeah, it just, again, I befuddle myself. I'm not a fantastically intellectual person, but it still boggles my mind that there are people who know how to use editing software that don't know how such a simple thing as canals and train tracks work. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and good night.